Mass Effect Andromeda is a bit of a weird game. On one hand, I absolutely loved it while I was playing it through, but as soon as I remembered that I have to compare this to the original Mass Effect games, it really falls apart very quickly. So it was kind of hard for me to focus on Mass Effect Andromeda without comparing it to Mass Effect Original Trilogy, because let's be honest, no matter how much we try to avoid it, the BioWare themselves kept trying to compare Andromeda with the original Mass Effect games, and they really set up our expectations really high. So while I was playing this game, I really tried to not compare it to Mass Effect, because I knew for a fact that if I keep doing that, I will let myself down, and I think I managed a pretty good job here, because right now I have about 30 hours into the game, which is nearly not enough when it comes to purely open world games, but I think I have covered enough when it comes to the game itself. I have finished through the story, and I did quite a lot of side missions, and I did set up 4 outposts, so there's that. And yeah, it's a bit of an interesting game. I had some interesting thoughts coming to this game. So let's start it off with the worst of Mass Effect Andromeda, and let's build ourselves to the very best thing about Mass Effect Andromeda, because I think there are a lot of bad things when it comes to this game, but also there are a lot of good things when it comes to this game, and I think the worst of this game really overshadowed what the good of the game actually was, because we all know about the bad animations, blah 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 storyline, but other than that, I think there are genuinely some good, decent vibes in this game, and I think they are worth talking about. So let's talk through this. Let's start with the worst of this game, and then let's go to the best of this game. So the obvious thing, the first worst thing about this game is the character animations and character models. I mean, just look at these characters, how they move, how they interact with each other, how they interact with the environment itself. It's bad, it's really bad. And of course, when the game was actually released, it was very bad in the first few days to weeks, but they did release a few patches and they tried to make it good. But let's all be honest to ourselves, because this is absolutely terrible. I don't know why BioWare decided to go with this route of animations. It just did not work. It was absolutely terrible to look at, and that was kind of a big deal because it didn't really make us involved or make us feel connected to the characters, because all of these characters had really bad animations and their eyes movements were also bad, and the way they move their bodies when they're covering under or something, it just looked very bad and terrible. And this is by far the worst thing about Mass Effect Andromeda. And I'm not really exaggerating here. When I played the game, apart from the times when I was jumping up and down or just sprinting, the rest of the interactions when it comes to other characters, I absolutely hated it, and I was just looking at my phone, because who cares? A good story means you have to like the characters on how they look and how they feel when you play them. And if the base character models and the base character design does not appeal to you, then you lose half the interest when you play a game. And that really is the biggest problem of Mass Effect Andromeda. They butchered the character designs, the character animations, and everything regarding to that. The worst part of this is that I tried the character customization of both male and female writer, and no matter what I did, every single animation just looked terrible. Every single character model looked terrible. I really tried to make something good, something that looks appealing to my eyes, and the end result is this monstrosity. It just looks terrible. And even the default character model of Sarah Ryder looks absolutely terrible. I mean, look at Commander Shepard. He doesn't have the manliest of face, it doesn't have the model's face, but you can tell when you look at him, he has a certain story behind him, and you can tell that the intensity was there when they designed that character. But when it comes to Sarah Ryder, there's nothing. This is very bad, and part of the reason why many people didn't like it was because of this, I feel like, at least. And personally for me, it was not that appealing when I tried to create my own character. It just didn't matter, because no matter what I did, it just ended up being very, very bad. Now, when I'm talking about character animations and character models, it also applies to rest of the creatures in this universe, or other alien creatures in this universe. The Angara, the Asari, the whatever the characters might be, they all look just absolutely terrible. I don't know what happened when they were taking design elements from the original Mass Effect games, because even though the characters themselves were stiff in the first games, or in the first trilogy of games, they had certain movements, they had certain way of doing things, and none of those things were actually translated into this game. And the end result is that especially when you look at Angara, I did not feel anything, because I remember when I was first interacting with other creatures in the original Mass Effect games, I was very excited to find out who they are, you know. I was very excited about what their backstory is, who they are, where do they come from, what are their objectives and motivations. And all of that really based on how these characters look. And if the first look of a character doesn't appeal to you, how are you going to invest yourself in the backstory or in the lore of that character or that little universe? So when it comes to that aspect, yeah, Andromeda absolutely did the worst of any other game so far. Now let's talk the next worst thing about Mass Effect Andromeda, or the least second worst thing of Mass Effect Andromeda, the main cast of Andromeda themselves. I mean, look at these characters. Does any of these characters actually feel interesting to you? Because when I was playing the game, none of these characters were remotely interesting at all. I mean, sure, the original Mass Effect games did not have groundbreaking characters, but the way they interacted with you as a player, it felt connected. You felt something for these characters when you were playing as Commander Shepard, but when I was playing Mass Effect Andromeda, I felt nothing. The voice acting was pretty bland, the script was subpar, and when it comes to their character designs and models themselves, they look absolutely terrible. And even the romances between the main character and you know, your potential romantic partner in the game, they just look bland. They just look very dumb and very rushed, quite honestly. And 90% of the time, I did not even find them to be remotely entertaining at all. You know, I really enjoyed going around Normandy and talking to my crew, because that really provided a sense of responsibility when you were playing the game, or at least the original Mass Effect games, and it made me feel connected to these characters. But when I was playing Andromeda, nothing, absolutely nothing. The main cast responses are very bland, they're very dumb, not funny, their dialogues don't really match how they feel, especially when it comes to their, you know, facial expressions, and even the base models of these characters just look absolutely terrible. And I think that's just one of the biggest problems when it comes to Mass Effect Andromeda. Though I do have to say that I was really interested in having a conversation with Suvi Anwar, because out of all these characters, her view was something much more different compared to the rest of the crew, because she has a strong faith in her religion and how she sees the world and the universe itself. She believes in God and a higher power, but also willing to acknowledge that alien species are very advanced and very powerful, and they can and have the power to create life themselves. So she had an interesting dynamic when it comes to how she plays off of you and how she sees the world itself. So I was really interested in talking to her for the most part, but other than that, none of the characters are actually interesting at all. Now we are coming into the sort of the mid-level of you know, worst to best ratio. So this is not something that's bad, but something that was just made me feel like, oh, okay, it's there, very cool, very nice. So when it comes to that, I think first thing that comes to mind is that the research and development aspect of the game, where you develop or you craft different weapons and you research different weapons, and for that you have to go around and collect materials. Personally, I didn't really care all that much. Usually I am interested in these kind of things because I'm the kind of guy who likes to just explore the world and go far off and just try to find something cool. But in the end, I don't know, I just did not feel it when it comes to this game. Maybe it was due to the fact that everything is just thrown at you, everything is available right there, and your job is to just craft, you know, these weapons, just to collect the material and just craft the weapon. Maybe it's just me, maybe I just did not enjoy it. I'm sure there are people out there who really enjoy that aspect of the game, and they really enjoy the research and development aspect of Mass Effect Andromeda. But personally, to me, I did not really care for it all that much. Maybe they could have improved that a little bit, when maybe make it so that once you find a weapon schematic, then you can start crafting, rather than just throwing everything at your face. I don't know, I just really care for it, and I was mostly sticking to the weapons that I found very early on in the game, and I just added a few mods to them and just used those weapons because I just didn't really care all that much when it comes to weapons. And the next thing that was kind of bland for me, or the mid-range when it comes to best and worst scale, is the world's environment themselves. Now, I'm not really talking about the worlds where you go around Nomad and try to find different things. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that the indoors areas of the Nexus, for instance, or some place in Angara, they all just felt devoid of any different vibes to them, because no matter which building you ended up in the entire galaxy, they all kind of look the same. There is no distinctive feel or vibe when it comes to the building design and the interiors themselves. Now, I'm not saying that they have to go around and make every single building look very unique, but maybe buildings in EOS could look a little different when it comes to buildings in, I don't know, Nexus. Well, not buildings, but rooms themselves. But I'm just hoping that, or at least I hope that there was a lot more style when it comes to how they made the environment, and I just felt like it was very bland, and didn't matter if you're going to EOS or if you're going to some other planet, doesn't matter, it just, they all look the same. So I just hope that it would have been nice if the environments were a little bit more diverse. In that way, it would give you something to look forward to. Now, coming to the last but not least in the worst to best scale, it is the story itself. We all love Mass Effect Commander Shepard's story. Even if the ending of that saga was a little bit disappointing, nonetheless we did enjoy the journey to that ending, and a lot of that has to do with the story elements. Now, when the game started off, I was genuinely interested in the world and the story that they wanted to present, because you being a Pathfinder on a different galaxy and it's your job to find a viable home for your people, it felt really amazing, and that's a perfect scenario to explore the worlds and just put you in a open world scenario. But as soon as the story starts to pick up, it really falls apart very quickly. Now, I'm not gonna go through the entire story elements and beats, because by now we already know what most of it is all about, so I'm not really gonna dig into that. But the story itself was very meh. It starts off very strong, it has a very interesting premise, the middle act was solid, but as soon as you cross that threshold, it really falls apart, and the ending of the game was just absolutely no. It was very bad, and the final boss battle is just, it doesn't exist. It felt like I was playing any other side mission. That's how it really felt like, and I think that's what they were going for, which is really sad, because once you beat the story, you can still explore the world. So they couldn't really end the story on a real high note and then put you back into the world again, because the game wouldn't reset back to the previous save, but it would just continue playing and exploring the world. So maybe it would have been better if they had a really strong ending, but made you more focused on exploring the world before you finish the main story. I don't know, that's how I'm just thinking out loud here, but it really felt like that. So because of that reason, the story just really falls apart at the end, and they have this little teaser where they're gonna oh, there's more to this coming later, but yeah, it didn't really work out, and the story itself is very mediocre. By no means it's a bad story, I think, because I did have fun exploring and I did have fun reading up the lore, but the ending and the motive of the bad guy of this game is just very basic, and it's very forgettable. Okay, so now we are entering into the aspects of which is good, or which are good about Mass Effect Andromeda, and one of the first things that comes to my mind is obviously the exploration of the worlds. I absolutely loved driving the Nomad on any planet, It doesn't matter where I was always having fun just driving this damn thing across the planet, and it was absolutely a pure bliss. It was such a fun experience, and I think a lot of people should really try that because of this exploration part and because of the driving part, because it was really breathtaking to drive around these planets and it was just genuinely fun. And that leads me to the next point itself, is the worlds themselves. A lot of people didn't really like a lot of these worlds and they thought that they were pretty bland and empty. To a certain degree, yes, I agree, the worlds were a little empty, but by no means it's you know, absolutely empty by any means. There are a ton of things to do and I had fun in them, and I really enjoyed driving around these places because the worlds themselves look breathtaking. I mean, just look at these shots. I know the world is kind of empty, but you cannot deny the fact that this game looks absolutely amazing. When it works, of course. When it works, it looks absolutely amazing. But for me, this was one of the best parts of the game. Just driving around in my Nomad, and my, you know, support crew are just having conversation in the background when I was just driving non-stop. And you get to stop in some of these places and just take in the view, and it just looks absolutely amazing. And I think that's one of the things that Andromeda really nailed. The atmosphere, the look, and the driving aspects of the game. And then we have the weapon shooting and the abilities themselves. Now I know this is a little bit of a controversial opinion where a lot of people didn't really like the cover-based shooting when it comes to Mass Effect Andromeda, but I didn't really mind it at all because I don't know, it was just fun to shoot around and it was alright, it was not bad at all by any means. Maybe it's just because a lot of these people who came from original Mass Effect series, they expected a lot more in Mass Effect Andromeda, but in this day and age, in 2022, it is absolutely pullable. Like, you can go around, just shoot stuff and just use your abilities and just have fun with it. But of course I understand the sentiment because there were 100 games that were much better than Mass Effect Andromeda when it comes to shooting and using your abilities. But yeah, if you don't really want to focus on that much and just go around, shoot a bunch of stuff and just call it a day at the end of the day, you know, I think it totally works. It's not a bad deal at all. And in my case, I enjoyed doing that. And of course I get it if you don't enjoy it, but it was not bad. It was not bad at all. And combine that with the jetpack that you're provided where you can jump up and forward. I just had fun with it and it was not a bad thing in my books. But of course I understand the sentiment behind that. And the best thing about this game finally is the fact that you get to start a new game where you have all of your abilities, all of your different weapons, skill points, credits and whatnot, all of them just being unlocked, being the same with the new character and the new game mode, the new game. And that, I think that's pretty great, where a lot of games didn't really do it back in the day, and you could do that in Andromeda. It was pretty cool. And of course in 2022 it's pretty cool to have this feature, and I liked it. It kind of gave me a motivation to check back into the game again, to try and focus more on research and development. I perhaps maybe will do that, you know, with the male writer. So far I was playing female writers, so I think that's one of the best aspects of this game. So in the end, in the hindsight, I think that Mass Effect Andromeda was a decent game. It was not as bad as people thought it was. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that people really enjoyed the Mass Effect Commander Shepard series and they had their expectations really high, and that kind of ruined the Mass Effect Andromeda for a lot of people. And I'm not gonna lie, it did for me too. When I saw a lot of these reviews, I immediately just skipped Mass Effect Andromeda because I just didn't feel like playing it. And I don't know, now thinking about it in 2022, the game holds pretty solid. It looks good, it plays very well. The technical aspect of the game is incredible. I haven't had any, huge crashes or any kind of issues while I was playing the game. There were a few parts, very few parts where the world wouldn't really load in all that much, but that was a very minor thing. It didn't really matter all that much. But as long as I was playing, as long as I was shooting my enemies, I was fine. None of it, actually really bothered me. And at the end of the day, I did have fun playing it. But now that I think about it, in the hindsight, maybe it would have been a bigger success if they did not associate this with the original Mass Effect series, because the biggest problem with Andromeda is that it really feels like a Mass Effect game, but it is not really. Now, of course, the alien species, the abilities, and the references to Milky Way galaxy, it's all there, but at the same time, it's a very different game to the original Mass Effect games, and I think that's what a lot of people didn't really like. So perhaps they should have made this game into its own little game, nothing to do with the Mass Effect games, just swap off the characters, just rename the game to, I don't know, Andromeda Initiative, and and the rest of the story and the rest of the stuff is just the same. And I think in that way it would have been a better story than associating it with Mass Effect trilogy of games. I don't know, that's just what I feel, and that's what I think they should have done. So now on to the final big question: should you play Mass Effect Andromeda in 2022? I think so. Yeah, you should. You definitely should. It is not a bad game by any means. The story is good enough for you to care just enough to see what's gonna happen, because it had a lot of interesting elements, especially when it comes to solving these puzzles. I really had fun doing that, especially knowing the fact that I suck at doing puzzles. I was genuinely intrigued in doing these puzzles, especially the remnant consoles or remnant tech puzzles, and they were pretty fun. And setting up your outpost was pretty fun, and just driving around was pretty good. So yeah, I think people should pick it up and just play it. And being 2022, you can just buy the game for 60% off or 80% off. I got this game for €4, so it's just 2 days worth of coffee, so it's not really a big deal. So you can definitely pick it up. Just play for a week for 30 hours, and if you don't like to do that, you can just play for 10-15 hours where you can just cover the entire story and maybe a few side missions here and there, and even then it's worth it. But would I recommend you buying this game for a full price in 2022? I don't know, it's a little tough one. If you have the money to spare, yeah, go for it. I'm not stopping you from doing anything, but I wouldn't do it. The main reason why I played Andromeda was because it was on sale and I wanted to play something different, and I remembered that, I loved the Mass Effect original series, so I thought I might as well give this a shot. So that's the reason why I played it. But yeah, at the end of it, I think you should play it if you have at least the slightest interest in it. If not, then you can obviously skip it, so that's not really a big problem. But yeah, if you have 20 to 30 hours to spare and you have €5 to spare when it's on sale, yeah, definitely get it, play it, and just close your brain. Just don't follow anything, just drive around, shoot some stuff, and just have a good time while you're watching Netflix and just playing something. But yeah, that's all there is to it. That's all I have to say. Of course, there's a lot more to this game, but I'm not gonna go through every single thing because this video is already damn long. But yeah, tell me what you think of Mass Effect Andromeda. Have you played it? Have you enjoyed it, or did you not? When did you play it, especially because I'm curious to know when have you played it. And yeah, that's all I have. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye and peace.